Kim, what's the biggest misconception we have about self worth, and what's the truth that could set us free?
I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that self-worth has to be earned, and that self-worth is out there somewhere and I got to earn it. I got to do things. I got to achieve. When really self-worth is always within you. Your worth is constant. It never changes. You might have forgotten about it, but it is always there, constant. That's the truth.
Okay, so if that is the biggest misconception, that we're innate worthy, that is always with us, how can we begin unraveling the belief that we are not enough? Is there a specific, let's say, practice or realization that can help us dismantle that false belief?
Yeah. And it's a very persistent one, this belief that I am
Yeah.
not enough. And this is something that I have struggled my whole life with. And the thing is that I didn't even realize that I had this underlying core belief that I wasn't enough. And I think this is true for many people, that some of our beliefs, we've been told things and we've seen things and be exposed to things in society again and again and again, and we internalize it and it ends up being our truth. For instance, this belief I had for years that I'm not enough, I don't know where it came from, but it was so deep in my subconscious mind, I didn't even know it was there. And that is what caused me to go out in the world and feel that I had to prove myself, that I had to achieve and do in order to gain, in order to be worthy. And if we want to change this, if we want to move away from this, if we want to realize our self-worth, we first have to identify those beliefs. We first have to have an awareness of the belief that is preventing me from realizing my self-worth. Because as long as I hold on to a belief such as I'm not enough, self-worth is not possible. They cannot coexist. They're polar extremes. So I first have to become aware that this belief exists within me, that I am not enough. So it all starts with awareness, because we can't change something that we're not aware of. If this belief is it's not in my everyday conscious mind. I don't think about it, but it's there deep in my subconscious, programming my thoughts, my behaviors, my decisions. So I first have to uncover that, take basically a torch and shine a light on this belief so I can start understanding it and unraveling it and questioning it. Because if I don't start questioning that belief, it will remain. We have to start questioning some of the beliefs that aren't serving us in order for us to finally let them go. So it all starts with awareness. Also, what I found is that, and I lean heavily on the work of Dr. David Hawkins, who looks at different levels of human consciousness, and it's a whole scale of consciousness. And when I speak of consciousness, this is our level of understanding, it's our level of awareness of who we are, our being, of our understanding of ourselves, of the world, of our experiences. And we're all at different levels. And this is not a judgment call saying one is better than the other, but we are all at different levels. And depending on what level you are, you will see the world in a different way. So for instance, let's say I'm at a certain level of consciousness. It's almost like I'm putting on glasses with green lenses on them. So when I look out in the world looks green to me. Everything has a green tint to it. But compare that to then someone at another level of consciousness. It is almost like they're wearing red glasses. So when they look out into the world, everything looks red to them. Now, it doesn't matter how much they're trying to convince me that the world is red. I see green, right? The world is always going to be green to me, because at my level of consciousness, my level of understanding and awareness, that is what I perceive. And what happens is, as we move through the levels of consciousness, what is important to us and how we see ourselves changes. So, for instance, at the lower levels of consciousness, where we're driven by some of the lower states of being, such as fear, anger, shame, guilt, these kind of states, then what becomes important to us is what we have. We define our worth according to what we have. So it's about my possessions. It's about the clothes I wear, the brands I wear. It's about the car I drive. It's about, look at me, I hang out with the cool kids. Or I get self-worth from my spouse. I feel good because my spouse is of a certain level. So I get status from what I have, my possessions. And this feeds into competition and rivalry and so on. But as we progress through the scale of consciousness, we go more from defining our self-worth from what we have accumulated, to what we do. So now it becomes, what have I achieved in the world? And the more I achieve, the more self-worth I have, the more people value me from the outside. So now it's like, well, how many degrees do I have? How many boards do I sit on? What have I achieved in this world? But there's another level. So we've gone from having to doing. And then the next level, as our consciousness expands, is now we start defining ourselves and gaining worth through who I have become, who I am, being. So we go from having, doing, to being. And this is a progression as we expand our consciousness, as we gain more awareness and understanding, and therefore we see the world differently. So if someone's operating at a lower level of consciousness, and it's all about having, that's how I define my worth, they're not going to understand the concept of feeling worthy simply because of who you become, who you choose to be every day, the fact that you are in alignment with who you truly are, your true essence. They're not going to see that because they're wearing a different colored lens, right? So they see the world, they perceive the world completely differently. The world is not the same to all of us. It will be different according to our level of awareness, understanding. So if we want to get out of this trap of always having to achieve in order to be worthy, then we need to now expand our consciousness, expand our awareness and understanding, and evolve with that. And that takes a lot of inner work. That doesn't just happen, we have to actually work on ourselves. And a lot of people aren't willing to do that necessarily.
There's so much to unpack on what you just said. It's just absolutely fascinating. And even from the beginning, when you talked about the beliefs we have, that most of those beliefs, or almost all of them, I would say, came from childhood. Just our brain created a story around an event, and then that's how we told ourselves, "Hey, I'm not enough," or "I'm not tall enough," "I'm not pretty enough," "I'm not," whatever the case may be. Becoming aware, I've always been a big proponent of that. It's like you have to become aware. You need to identify. I think that one of my questions has been in the past is, okay, once we become aware, how deep do we have to go? Do we need to find the root of the story, or we can just, because if we don't know the root of the story, where it all began, probably could be at when we're 4 or 5. Can we truly challenge and change it? So that is something I've been in the back of my mind for a minute. But another thing that you said is just how everyone lives a different reality, and I think for a lot of people it's hard to comprehend and to understand, because when I've talked to other people, I realize that everyone thinks, or many people think, I would say, that everyone just looks the world with the same lens. It's like, no. I mean, if we all look the world with the same lens, we all kind of be agree. I mean, we most likely agree with a lot of things, and there's a lot of there's a lot of conflicts and different ideas, and that means that what makes sense to you might not make sense to me, and vice versa. So I do understand that. I love your explanation of the different levels of consciousness, just from, okay, I have all of this, or I have achieved all of this, now I'm this person over here. In your experience, and I know that I probably said a lot now, but once we sort of become aware of, clearly, intellectually, that I don't feel worthy of whatever, or I'm not enough, how can we how can we challenge the story? Because, once again, imagine that I'm in my 30s. So in my head, I've been living with this story for 20 plus years, 25 plus year. That change won't happen overnight. It will take some time because it's ingrained deep in my subconscious. Even if I start challenging that story and changing them, it will take time until the old one gets replaced. And when do I know that the process is actually working? Because even if we use the reframe as a tool, reframing only works if you believe in that new story. If you don't believe in that new story, it doesn't matter how many times you say it, it won't work. And so you first need to find a story that you actually could believe and implant into your subconscious. But at the same time, how long will it take to rewrite the old story?
Mm. Yeah. Well, like I said, this is this has been a lifelong journey for me, this
Yeah.
realizing my self-worth.
Yeah.
And I love there's a saying, I believe it comes from the First Nations in America, the First Nations people, where they said the longest journey that you will ever take in your life is from your head to your heart. And I believe that is true for me because we can understand it intellectually. I can understand, yes, I'm worthy. I get the idea of it, but it makes no difference as long as I don't know it in my heart. I have to know it as truth with a capital T, with every fiber of my being, in order for it to become truly my reality and for me to operate from that. I can know something to be true intellectually, but if I don't know it in my heart, probably then that is where there is that belief in the background. Then the belief, for instance, that I'm not enough, it is so strong within me, so it overrides the intellect. Doesn't matter how much I understand the fact that I'm worthy here. If that belief is there and it's strong, then that overrides the intellect. So how do we make that shift when it's so ingrained? It's so ingrained in our identity, who we believe that we are. Now, I personally do not believe that we need to understand exactly where that belief came from. I don't think that is so important. If you uncover that, it's interesting. But the main thing is to gain an awareness of it. And when you have that awareness, you now have, like I said earlier, an opportunity to question it. So, for instance, if something happens externally and you immediately feel, ooh, that feeling of, oh, I'm not enough. If you have now an awareness that this is a bit of an issue for you, you may now catch it. Previously, that feeling might have come up and you just go with it. You just ride that wave without even questioning it. But once you have the awareness and that feeling comes up, you're like, oh, hang on now, Kim. Is this really true? Is it really true that you're not enough? What's going on here? What triggered you there? What's going on? You have an opportunity to observe it. You create a bit of distance from that feeling, from that belief, from that thought. And you now, once you've created a bit of distance and you're not immediately identifying with it and just go with it, because you have a little bit of distance now, you have an opportunity to choose a different thought, to go a different direction. But initially, yes, your habit is to think, I'm not enough. Something happens, yeah, this proves I'm not enough. This is your habit, right? These are the neural pathways in your brain. That's how they fire. But as you start to see yourself as slightly detached, and you create a bit of distance there, and you have a bit of time to choose a different thought, to reframe it, as you said, you're now starting to create new neural pathways in your mind. And the more you do that, the more you reinforce that, that now becomes the dominant pathway. So over time, you are shifting from this old belief to your new belief. Yeah. So you don't have to believe it 100%, this new belief from the get go, but you have to start having an awareness of what you actually believe and the thoughts that are coming into your head in order for you to make a choice to change them. Is that, does that make sense?
Yes. In fact, you know, when you were talking, what you just said reminded me of a conversation I had with a different guest probably 6 months ago. Her name is Karen Faith. She's another TEDx speaker. She has a TEDx I think the name is "How to Talk to the Worst Parts of Yourself." But the interesting part is like at some point we actually touch what you just said, even though our conversation wasn't about that. We touched the point of feeling not being good enough, and I remember she saying it's like I that she believes or she put the challenge of maybe thinking of what if feeling not good enough is a feature, not a flaw, in a way that is what it drives us to improve, to grow, and to get better at it. But then if we let it run the show, then of course our confidence and so forth are going to be on the bottom, of the pit. But it's almost like if we, because I think that feeling not good enough and feeling unworthy are two different things. If we, I guess, and this is just me trying to put all the pieces together, but if we associate us feeling like not good enough with our self-worth, that's going to affect. But what if we think about that? Okay, it's okay for me to feel that I'm not good enough yet, and that will help me to improve or to get better at something. It's almost like from an evolutionary standpoint, kind of makes sense. It's how we made it this far in history. But the moment that we let it run the show, is that's when it sort of starts affecting our self-worth. When we believe that if we have doubts about how good we are or how enough we are, then that's when the problem comes. And I don't know, I just, to me, I definitely like how you put it all together in a way. It's like, yeah, we don't have to truly challenge we don't have to identify the initial story, but we can start embodying and becoming aware and stopping ourselves from having the knee-jerk reaction of, oh, I'm just going to jump. I feel like I'm not good enough. That means my self-worth is non-existent, which is not necessarily true. Is finding ways to reframe the feeling, and also trying to trick our minds to think differently, because as you said, the ego will try to keep our old identity intact. Our ego doesn't want us to change or to improve, because at the end of the day, our brains are designed to keep us safe, not to make us happy, not to help us thrive, but to keep us in the same place where it's just very predictable. So how can we bridge that gap between knowing and truly embodying self-worth?
Yeah, I like what you said, and you referred to your previous guest there about, that it has gotten us to this point. And I recognize that in my own life 100%. Me going out there trying to prove myself, trying to achieve, I got some success of it. Absolutely. It got me to this point, and I should honor that. I recognize, I don't, that's not a bad thing necessarily. And I always believe that at whatever point I did the best that I could with the level of awareness and understanding that I had in that moment. But now that I have a different awareness and understanding, I can choose differently. And I think a nuance that I would like to shed some light on with what you said is that when we are trying to do more and achieve to feel worthy, it is coming from a place of fear. I'm not enough. Therefore, I have to do to prove that I'm enough to the world in order to be accepted, in order to be loved. So it's coming out of fear. Whereas if I recognize that I am worthy simply because I am me, that's all, that I am worthy, and I start creating from that point, it has a completely different energy. Now I motivated through my inspiration, through my alignment with who I truly am, and that's going to carry me a lot further compared to if I am doing and achieving from a place of fear, energy of fear, that I'm not good enough, that I have to prove myself. And I'm sure everyone has probably felt this in some area of their life, where if you're doing something where you are connected with your underlying why, you're doing something that you love, that you're passionate about, you do it with a completely different enthusiasm, inspiration, motivation, compared to when you're doing something just because you have to do it. I have to prove that I'm worthy, I have to prove that uh, uh, that I'm good enough, kind of thing. That is really what can get us into trouble in terms of anxiety, burnout, and so on. So we're creating from very different energies. So I think the key is going out and achieving in the world. That's not a bad thing at all. That's not what we're saying here at all. But it's why are you doing it? Where are you coming from? What is the energy that's driving you? Rather, recognize your self-worth. Getting to a point where I know that I am worthy. It doesn't matter if I succeed, it doesn't matter if I'm failing. I am worthy. I am the constant through the storm, whatever is happening on the outside. I am worthy. Nothing can change that. And then when I recognize that, align with that, I create from that. That is powerful, much more powerful than creating and achieving from having to prove myself.
I mean, I truly, truly love what you just said because it is true. And I think that even if we know it, which I don't think that many people do, but even if we know it, we need that reminder that a lot of things we're doing might be coming from a place of fear. And the fear of, obviously, we all want to be loved. It's part of how it's kind of like in a DNA. So it's the only way that we can extend and our offsprings and keep the human race, quote unquote, alive. But one of the when you were describing this, it reminded me of a point where I think that a lot of people are looking for external validation, which is understandable. One thing that I realized for myself is that in many cases we engage in heavy self-improvement work, or we're trying to achieve a lot of different things like accolades or money or status or titles, because I think that we are unknowingly chasing self-love through external validation. So it's almost like when I improve this about myself, or when I achieve that, or when I have that car, right? People will love me, and if I'm not great, that means that I'm not good enough. One thing that I this realization came from last year when I was early on the podcast. I had a guest that finally said yes, and I was excited because that person was giving me a chance of just doing this whole thing. So I put a lot of work, a lot of effort. I did so much research. I spent hours doing the whole thing because at the end, my goal was to make that person feel, oh, I'm so happy. I'm so glad I said yes because I had a great experience in this podcast. So that was my entire goal of the whole thing. Obviously, get like a very learning from the person as well. But I wanted to give that to the person. After the interview was over, the person said like 3 or 4 times, man, this was an amazing interview. This was just wonderful. I mean, you're a great interviewer. And even though that person like 3 or 4 times, I realized something. I started getting even depressed because I achieved the goal I had, which made that person feel okay, feel great about the whole thing. But I realized that that validation, that thing, meant nothing to me because I didn't truly feel it. So even though I was looking for a lot of things, even though I felt like we need to find external validation because we are too biased. I need to have proof from others or permission from others that it's okay to love myself. It's almost like, okay, if I love myself, does that mean that I deserve to love myself, or maybe I should improve something? So I think that our brain tricks us, and we think once Kim loves me, or once this other person loves me, and once they give me the reasons why I should love myself, then I do it. But even when you receive that from others, it won't do anything until you do it for yourself. And that was like, that opened my mind and blew my mind in a sense, like, holy crap, even when I got the results I was looking for, I still didn't feel it.
Yeah, yeah. All the answers are within. You know, a little story that I love. Maybe you've heard of it. This man who he's lost his keys, right? So he's on the street, under the street light. He's looking for his keys. And this other gentleman comes round and says, "Oh, can I help you? What are you searching for?" And he says, I lost my keys. I dropped my keys. Yeah, please help me search for the keys. So they're busy searching for the keys. And after a couple of minutes, the guy says, "Well, you know, we've looked for quite a while. Are you sure you dropped your keys here?" And the original man, he says, "No, no, no, I didn't drop them here. I dropped them in my house, but it was so dark in there, I decided to look out here instead under the street light where there's light." And you might think that's the most stupid story, Kim. That's like to make no sense. But that is exactly what we do. We look out here for all the answers. We look out here for the validation. But the key to everything is within ourselves. The only thing is that it can be a little bit dark in there. And therefore, it can be a little bit scary. And therefore, a lot of us, we don't want to go in there. We don't want to face whatever is in there. Because if I have a belief where I think I'm not enough, but I'm gonna hope that maybe I'm enough, and therefore I'm gonna go out in the world and prove that I'm enough. Now, do I really want to go deep within me and see and find out 100% that I'm not enough? I don't want to go there. I don't want to face that in case it's actually true, right? So I'm going to avoid that. But that's what we have to do. We have to have the courage to take that flashlight and go within, because everything that we want is within us. And I think this took a long time for me to figure out personally, in that accepting the totality of who I am. And there are many things that I don't necessarily like about myself, but it's still accepting them, that I am the whole. I'm the good, I'm the bad, I am everything. It is the whole, and I'm worthy as the whole. I used to think that it's just the good things that are worthy, you know? If I could just get rid of the bad stuff, then I would be okay. Then I would be worthy. But actually, it's coming to a realization that I am this whole and accepting everything that is in it. That doesn't mean that I cannot then choose to behave a certain way, more in accordance with what I value, but I have to accept and shine a light on everything, even the things that I don't like, the guilt, the shame, whatever it is, right? And I love likening it also to thinking of ourselves as a beautiful sky where the sun is shining. When you are truly aligned with yourself, your true core essence, it's this beautiful light, this constant, never-ending, beautiful light, just like the sun. It is shining bright. It can never die. It is there constantly. But what happens sometimes is that these dark gray clouds come and prevent that sunshine from coming through. And that is the same with these beliefs that we have. We've talked a lot about today that I'm not enough. That's one of those very dark gray clouds. And as long as I hold on to that belief, that cloud is going to be there. And the sun, the true essence, this gorgeous energy of who I am, can't shine through, right? But I'm doing it to myself. I'm the one with all these beliefs. I'm the one. So my job really is to identify what some of these clouds are, because a lot of the time, like I said in the beginning, we don't even know they're there because they're so deep in our subconscious mind. We don't even know that they're there. So it's first shining a light on them, getting an awareness that they are there, and then starting to shed them, to let go of them, right? So that that I can shine through, so that that light shines through. It is always there. It never went away. It was just these dark clouds came over it.
Yeah. By the way, I love that story, even though it sounded silly, but it's true. It's just like find. It's like why would you be looking the key elsewhere? Why would you look your self worth elsewhere? Why would you look your whatever self love elsewhere? But inside, and I think I truly believe, Kim, that we want to be wrong, and that's why we don't go deep inside, because if our belief is that we're not good enough, if we go inside, what if we're right? What if we indeed are not good enough? I cannot, my identity, myself, the ego, I cannot deal with that. So I'll rather just, I want to be wrong so badly, but there's a chance I could be, right. So I'm not going to go, within myself. And I think that when we finally start recognizing our self worth, I think that we often feel resistance. It's almost like we are betraying an old version of ourselves, or even the current version of ourselves. As we mentioned earlier, your ego, your identity doesn't want you to evolve or to move forward, because that is a threat to what exists now. And when we do that, the moment that we feel that resistance, we feel I mean, I'm an imposter. I'm faking it. I'm not supposed to do this, because the body's like, we don't want you to change. We don't want you to do anything. I'm sure, and here I'm assuming that you also experience that, because I feel that that is part of the human experience and the human thing. But how can people move through that discomfort, the moment that they feel that strong resistance of, yes, you shouldn't be doing this?
Yeah, yeah. And that is, whenever we're shifting, whenever we're embarking on change and transformation, I think you mentioned it earlier, alluded to it, we are stepping into the unknown. We're stepping outside our comfort zone. And that little survival brain that you said, it's going to signal, this doesn't feel good. I don't want you to go any further, right? And it's just knowing in ourselves that, it's not that it's bad. It just means that it's the unknown. I haven't been here. It's new. It's growth. This is, you're always going to feel that whenever you're about to transform, right? So it's embracing that. And once again, it's not saying that the old version of you was wrong. The old version of you served you for that time. Like I said, I did the best I could with the level of awareness and understanding at that time. But I'm going to upgrade now. I can, even if I don't have anything to prove anymore, doesn't mean that I'm going to lose my ambition. It's just now it's fueled from a different source. Before it was fueled by fear. I'm upgrading. Now it's going to be fueled through passion and purpose, rather. Okay, so it's just, I think, recognizing that change is never easy. There's always going to be a bit of a wobbly patch there as we're moving into our new identity. And we're not quite sure where that is. We're still trying to find our feet, and that's okay. Just embrace it and know that it's part of the growth. And sometimes we take a few steps back before we move forward as well.
Yeah, I think a phrase I like to tell myself is, what got me here won't get me there, or whatever there might be. And that to me is like, okay, that doesn't mean that my past was bad, or the old version of me, of myself, was bad. Actually, I thank that old version of me a lot, because it kept me safe, it kept me alive, it kept me uh, out of all the embarrassment, shame, fears, and all of that I could have felt or experienced. I made it this far thanks to that version of me. But now that version of me might not be serving me anymore. And that's when, again, I'm always trying to find ways to just trick myself to believe into, what, it's okay to step into this discomfort, because if I have the ambition, if I want to get somewhere else, or if I want to keep growing, whether professionally or personally, there are going to be some growing pain. There are going to be some changes that I will have to experience and eventually get there. So I love how you said, hey, we don't have to diminish what we experienced in the past, or that old version, because in fact that is very valuable, but might not serving us anymore. You made a powerful distinction between in your talk between confidence and self-worth. Do you think that society conflates the two? And if so, how does that affect people's sense of identity or fulfillment?
Yeah. I just want to comment also on what you said because I thought it was so interesting. And it's for me, and I think for a lot of people as well, it's also forgiving the old version of ourselves, showing compassion towards the old version. Sometimes I'm like, what in the world was I doing? Why didn't I just get everything
Uh,
together, but having compassion for that, and just knowing that, okay, that version of Kim, she did what she did, she did the best that she could at the time of what she knew, but I know better now, so I'm making different choices. I couldn't have made these choices back then because I wasn't at that level. So I think compassion for that person is so important, but yes, with regards to self-worth and confidence, there's a difference there. And I think we confuse the two. People use the terms interchangeably. And also, from my own perspective, I had confidence. I know I had a lot of confidence. I put myself out there a lot. I stepped out of my comfort zone a lot and I achieved a lot, and they gave me confidence. But I still didn't have self-worth. And initially I thought the two were identical. They're not, because confidence is all about what you show on the outside. It's all about what I can do, what I have achieved. It's about my skills and my talents. Whereas self-worth is how I feel on the inside. It's about who I am. It's about my value as a person, regardless of what I have achieved, regardless of what people think of me. It doesn't matter. That value is still there. So they are hugely different. And, I run a business. And when the business was doing well, I had a lot of confidence. I felt good about myself. But when COVID hit and that business took a real knock and started going downhill quite quickly, my confidence took a real knock, and I started then to question everything. I'm actually not good enough. This proves that I'm not good enough, and that just shows how fickle it is, because it's all dependent on external circumstances. If things are going well, my confidence is up. If things are not going well, then my confidence takes a hit. So it's a bit of a roller coaster. But self-worth is what I spoke about earlier. That's that constant. Doesn't matter what's going on the outside. That's that constant, knowing that I have value as a person, regardless if I'm successful or if I fail. That constant, that it's a deeper sense of who I am, that value, that is unshakable. Doesn't matter what's going on the outside. So they are very, very different. But I do agree with you. I think that sometimes we confuse the two terms.
It sounds to me like self worth is one of those things that is, even though we all have it, right? But it is very hard to acknowledge it, or to embody it, and to understand it and to feel it, and very easy to lose. Even if you do all the moment that something happens, like, I knew it. I see. I knew it. I knew it. I was lying to myself. I knew it, that I wasn't, as you said, good enough, worthy enough. And to me, that is a. I think that's what makes us humans, I guess, and and that's the. I think it's a lifelong journey of trying to make peace and to understand that yes, our self-worth, I mean, we are is innate. We all deserve to be here, because that's another point. I've talked to other guests in the past when they ask me, well, when we feel that we don't belong, does that make any sense? And I remember answering this person like, well, it doesn't make any sense to me, because if we think about it from an evolutionary standpoint, us feeling that we don't belong, if we all felt that way, even thousands of years ago, we wouldn't have made it this far because we needed to be with, within the community and tribe and extend the human race. So to me, I've been trying to understand why we think and feel the way that we do. But I wonder, now that you mentioned confidence and self-worth, I wonder, see, a lot of people have associated imposter syndrome with confidence. I wonder if actually imposter syndrome is associated more with self-worth, right? In a sense that, okay, I might feel like a faker, or just I might feel like imposter because I deep inside I don't believe that I deserve it or that I'm not good enough.
Yeah, possibly. I also just want to comment on something you said there in terms of it's a lifelong journey. And I know it has been a lifelong journey for me, but it doesn't have to be, because ultimately self-worth, it's always there, right? It's always there. And it's really just a realization for us to realize and connect with that. And that can really happen in an instant. It can happen in an instant because it is always there, right? It's just removing those clouds. And I think that, um, so sometimes that's a belief in itself that, oh, it's going to be a lifelong journey. It's going to take so much time for me to connect with my self-worth. It's a belief. And if we believe something, we then, life falls into place in that. So I don't want us to limit ourselves by thinking, oh, it has to take decades for me to realize my self-worth. It is always, your worth is always there. It's only for you to realize it. And that can happen in a split second.
Yes, okay, I love that because it's true. I mean, our mind's job is to make our thoughts real. And if we believe that it's going to take us decades, only we're going to realize when we're 80, well, that's what we're going to experience. I mean, we can change our reality by changing our thoughts, by saying, hey, this can happen at any moment. Let's go ahead and do it. So having that, changing that perspective could help, well, definitely me, and probably a lot of people realize, wait, I mean, I don't, even though the self-improvement is a lifelong journey, sure, because we can always get better at doing things, or even on a personal level, feeling worthy or feeling that we belong or feeling that that we are complete, it can happen in an instant, but I just have to look for it. But you are an over, like you're a high achiever, I'm a high achiever, like type A personality. What advice would you give to those high achievers who fear, me, we're one of them, that detaching self worth from success will make them lose their drive?
But that's going back to what I said earlier, that you have to look at the fuel, just it's before you were fueled by fear, like I said, because you're trying to prove something. You're scared that you're not good enough, so you got to prove. You go out there and achieve. And you achieve, that's great, right? But it comes with a certain level of anxiety. And so it's just, you're not giving up your ambition. That's not what you're doing. You are just changing the fuel to now I know who I am. I know that I'm worthy. I am connected with my underlying why. I'm creating from that. I am now ambitious, but it's coming from a place of purpose and passion, not fear. And you can achieve so much more then. You can go so much further then compared. So I think it's just you're upgrading your fuel. That's all you're doing. You're not giving up your ambition. But if you have a belief that uh, I have to like I'm not good enough. I need to achieve to be good enough. And that is what's driving my success. That is the key to my ambition. And of course, you're going to hold on to that. You're not going to want to change. But once again, it's a belief that is limiting you. It's a belief that's blocking you. So it all comes, the beliefs are so core to how we think about things and how we go out there in the world. So it's once again having an awareness of that. How is that? So you're going to hold on to that belief as long as it's serving you. And you're holding on to it because you think that is what's driving my ambition and my success. Therefore, I need to hold on to this belief.
Yeah, I think that's why you see a lot of highly successful people being miserable, or even a lot of people say, well, money doesn't buy happiness, and all of us who don't have their net worth, like, yeah, sure, give me your money and then we'll, I'll prove you wrong. But I think it's that it's they keep chasing that self-love and feeling worthy, and then it doesn't matter how much you achieve if your fuel keeps being fear or lack, right? It's just like I'm missing something, I'm missing something. Now that is a very, very powerful fuel. Let's recognize that. I think that a lot, I feel that we achieve things through either, I think that in my mind, I might be wrong here, like two main fuels, either fear or desire. That's how we accomplish things. And I think that the fear is far stronger than the desire at the beginning, because we are missing something. And then that would get us, that would help us to get up and take action. But then it doesn't have very good direction in terms of fuel. I mean, it's powerful, but then we need to find, I guess, purpose or fulfillment, just to steer the ship in a clear direction. And this is where what we're going, where we can have both. We can have the success and we can have the fulfillment, or quote unquote happiness. Because I think that even in your case, you mentioned that you were successful by society standards, but you still felt unworthy. And based on that, why do you think that our culture gets wrong about success and self-worth?
Well, I think it goes back to what I spoke about in the beginning, these levels of consciousness. Where are we operating from? And 80% of the world's population are operating from the lower levels of consciousness, where it's all about having and doing. So that's what's going to be important. So it's an evolution. It's an expansion of our consciousness, and we're all at different levels. So I think it goes back to that, to be honest. I also believe that, when we're born, we we're whole, right? And then from our family, from school, from society, we now start to take on beliefs that perhaps are not really true to who we are, and we feel that we have to go out in the world and prove and do in order to be worthy, and so on. But for me, what I have found out, or what I found out for myself, what the journey that I'm on, and I believe it's a bit of a spiritual journey, is kind of going full circle back to what we were when we were born. So in the beginning, we are pure, and then we gather all these things that are really don't belong to us. These beliefs aren't part of who I am, right? And then now, this part of my life, it's all about shedding those beliefs. It's about releasing everything that does not belong to me, that I've picked up, beliefs from other people that I've picked up along the way. And now letting those go until I get full circle to the pure being in alignment with who I really am. That's kind of how I see my journey through life. So it all comes back to, I believe our purpose is always just to be who we are, to be true to who we are. That is our purpose. That is our goal. And for most of us, it is just about shedding everything that doesn't belong to us, that isn't alignment with who I truly am. But that's kind of what I'm trying to get back to. And it's always there. That self-worth is always there. I just not you need to get out, need to get rid of the excess that has nothing to do with me. I've just picked it up along the way. That's what I need to get rid of. And there are different layers to this. We start peeling off some outer layers, and we think, I feel good. I've done a lot of work on myself. And then we realize, okay, there are more layers. There are deeper layers. There's a deeper level of understanding. There's always more to just get us more and more into alignment with who we truly are.
You know, I never saw it that way, and which it's just I love how you put it up, that the way that we were born. See, we never, once at some point in life, we attach our self-worth to our ability to do things. That's why failure is so hard on us, because we attach an outcome to our self-worth. I'm definitely have done it. Many people don't start doing anything, or just hard for them to follow their passion or to try something new, because once again we attach our self-worth to our ability to do things. But we were never, I mean, we were not always like that. It's like when we were learning how to walk, we fell so many times. We never thought, you know what, this walking thing is not for me. We just kept, it was never in our mind thinking that, oh, that means that I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy of walking. We just kept trying and kept trying. At some point, which something happened again, probably our exposure to society, exposure to different experiences, and having more like a conscious mind, because our we run a subconscious for the first, I don't know, 3 4 years or something. So and then our goal in life is just to go back to that initial point, how we were born. It's almost like stealing back the confidence we were born with, or the sense of self-worth we were born with. We didn't know about that, but was always within us.
And
So
rediscovering who we are. It was always there, but we just need to rediscover it. You know, we went out in the world and we did all these things, and it's just bringing it back to, oh, it's not about what's out here. It's not about what other people think. It is all about, everything is within me. And all those experiences that I had to go through, it was just to bring me back to myself. That's how I see it.
yeah, I mean, I love that, because I think it just I think that's what the human experience is about. I think we all of us will just have those beliefs. They're going to be so ingrained in our subconscious, and our job is to unravel those, is to change it. It's just to go back to the pure essence we were when we were born. But for some reason, we don't believe it until we do the work. Because if we were pure all along, from the moment we were born until now, then it's almost like life wouldn't be, I wouldn't say life wouldn't be worth living, but it would be less challenging. And that's, I guess, what makes life interesting, those challenges that we need to go through as just human beings. I don't know. So I just love the way that you put it all together, because now we can understand we were always like this, and our job is just to get back to that initial point and then make the full circle. Kim, I've been having like wonderful conversation. I could just go for longer, an hour and two more. But as a closing question, if somebody is listening to this and still feels like they have to earn their worth, what's the one thing you want them to take away?
Oh, well, I would say I would say start questioning that, like, what is it you're trying to prove? Who are you trying to prove it to? Yeah. Just start questioning that a little bit. So that it's once again taking out that torch and shining some light on it. Start unraveling it a little bit so you can have a look at it more objectively. Like, what is this about? And then you can ask, does this serve me? Do I want to do I want to keep doing this? Or have I come to the point where I feel like, no, this is no longer in alignment with who I want to be? Because now I have anxiety, I'm burnt out, whatever it is. But it always starts with, let's just look at it, let's shine a light on it, let's see if this is, if you have a choice. You always have a choice. You can keep it if you feel that it serves you. That's your choice. It's not for anyone to tell you that that's not a good thing, or this is right or this is wrong. It's up to you. But have an awareness, have an understanding, and then choose which direction you want to go. Hang on to where you're at, or maybe choose something different.
Love that. Love that. Just get curious in a non-judgmental way. Why you feel the way you feel? Why it's like I. It just I keep hearing this game. Seriously, it's just, it doesn't matter who I talk to about what kind of topic. It seems like the common trend of of the, I wouldn't say the cure, but something that could help us a lot in life, in any aspects of our life, is just being more curious. The more curious we are, the more we can just help ourselves, help others. And I think that curiosity is the first step to the awareness that you're talking about. But we have to be careful and be non-judgmental, as you said, have the self-compassion for the old version of ourselves, and then, hey, you know what, we can do it. Love that. Love that.
Curiosity, compassion, I love it. I would add one more, and that is a willingness to move forward, a willingness to look inside ourselves, a willingness to see a different perspective, a willingness to put ourselves out there and grow. Yeah, I love it.
Awesome. Oh, willingness. Yes. Then we have the curiosity, self-compassion, willingness. I love that, Kim. It's been a pleasure and such a wonderful conversation that I feel that I just, the insights and the things we talked about is something that it should be taught in every school. It should be, people should know more about this, and it's not being talked enough. So I truly enjoyed the conversation, and um, I'm grateful that you came on the podcast. And again, once again, wonderful conversation. But where can people find you, work with you? I know that you also have a TEDx talk. Anything?
Yeah, so you just search for my name online. I'm on the social media platforms, Instagram and Facebook and TikTok. And you can also go to my website, kimotteby.com. I speak professionally. I do workshops. I have an online course, which it's really everything that I have learned in my journey of how to remove those dark gray clouds so that the essence of who you are can shine through and you can step into your full potential. So there's a beautiful online course where I teach all these things. Yeah, that is really my purpose and passion now moving forward in life. So I invite people to reach out and connect with me. And thank you so much, Daniel, for inviting me onto this podcast. I really enjoyed the conversation thoroughly as well. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. And yes, all the links will be in the video, show notes, and YouTube description. Once again, Kim, completely pleasure, and I'll definitely have to bring you back at some point because I feel that we run out of time and still have a lot of things to uncover and to talk about.
No, thank you. Thank you so
Yeah,
much. Thank
yeah,
you.
much.